All right, everyone. I would like to welcome you today to our webinar all on streamlining your practices by cross-selling your advisory and tax planning services. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Leah Green. I am one of our senior account managers here at Intuit Canada. I support the Northern Alberta region. Wanted to welcome you all today and quite excited to have everyone here. So I would love to introduce our incredible speaker, Mr. Michael Lauro. He is a CPA, CMA, and he is an accountant with a strong background in software training and consulting. So Michael started offering software training courses back in 1999, and he continues to teach and train to this day. Working both under his own banner and directly with Intuit, Michael has also written training manuals, webinar materials, and self-paced learning guides for both QuickBooks and Profile. Michael's work with Intuit includes being part of the Canada-wide 9-member Intuit Regional Trainer team, being an ongoing contributor to Intuit blogs and newsletters, demonstrating Profile at Intuit's Big Tax event, and co-developing a QuickBooks video and client data review. So big warm welcome to Michael Lauro today. So glad to have him here. Just for all of you, if we have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to post them in the chat box to the top right-hand corner. I'll be moderating those throughout, and we can make sure to touch on those as we go. There will also be a poll question about halfway through, so we'll take a couple minutes to gather all of your insights on that one and get things started. So glad to have everyone here today.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Leah, for the wonderful introduction. You make me sound important almost. So, and when I say almost, I'm saying that from my perspective. But thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's a real pleasure for me to sit in on this webinar and offer what is essentially an opinion on the way I see the current playing field for our profession. So it's opinion based on my own perception after 25 years of experience. And as Merriam-Webster says, it's view, judgment, or appraisal formed in the mind about a particular matter. And so if you've done any kind of tax work, I think you all know what opinion means, right? Because it's all opinion, isn't it, for the most part? So that's what we're going to talk about for the roughly next 60 minutes or so. And we're going to just start off right away by talking about how do we build some new business, especially with this word called cross-selling. And so the first thing we have to identify is what's the best source for new business. Where would we get the best bang for our buck in looking for new clients, new business, increased revenue? Let's call it what we want. And let's start pretty much by stating the obvious. Current clients are the best source for new business. I think that's been proven over and over again. And we all know that the established client is the one that is more receptive to anything else we have to offer. And that's because we've essentially established a trusted relationship with our clients that obviously we value and our clients value. We've built that solid relationship, and now with cloud technology, we have unprecedented opportunities to even strengthen that relationship. And that's what we're going to talk about pretty much today. These increased opportunities that are open to us. I love telling anyone who listen that I've been doing this kind of work for 25 plus years, and I can tell you that the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen, or I have seen, more change in our profession than in the prior 20 odd years. Things are moving quickly thanks to cloud technology. The way we deal with our clients has changed. What we can offer our clients in terms of additional services, if we're doing tax work, what else can we offer them? Well, now with cloud technology, the sky's the limit, essentially. Pardon the pun, because what we've got is this two-way street, if you will, between the client and the advisor. and the accountant, and we have wonderful opportunities to build on that. And essentially what we've become is trusted advisors. Our clients look to us for information, for advice, and oftentimes, and we'll get into this a little bit, I don't want to jump the gun, but oftentimes on topics and issues that have nothing to do with accounting or tax. And so let's have a look at how we can take advantage of what this technology offers us. And you know, the funny thing is that most of us, and I'm as guilty as anyone else, sometimes we don't capitalize on that opportunity. There's an opportunity to offer more to a client, and we don't, you know, bring it home, if you will. And why is that? And it's essentially this: most accounting professionals will say that they don't have a sales mentality. That's why we're accountants. That's why we're accounting professionals. We're not salespeople. We don't know how to sell. We don't want to sell. And you know, let's call this the accountant's lament. We all feel this way, or many of us do anyway. And it's really funny because when I started going to university all those years ago, I was going in for my Bachelor of Commerce, and I went in as a marketing major. I had worked in sales for a while, and I thought, oh, this could be a nice career. So I went in as a marketing major, and I walked out a few years later, and I'm an accounting, you know, I'm an accountant. In fact, you know, not only an accounting major, I'm an accountant. And you know, sometimes I still shake my head and wonder how that happened. And many other people will shake their heads in disbelief that that happened. And the reason it did is because I just thought that accounting made more sense than marketing. So there you go. That I don't have a sales mentality lament of most accountants. But we've got to rise above that in a sense, and we have to realize that it's really not about sales. It's not about sales. And if we have that idea that, you know, we're not salespeople, we don't like to sell. What's the opportunity cost of that frame of mind? Obviously, we're looking at lost revenue. That, you know, that green bar, we could call that the revenue we could lose by not capitalizing on the ability to cross-sell our services. Of course, there's even more opportunity costs. There's even greater losses because we also forego the potential of building a stronger relationship with our clients, which could lead to lost clients. And so we need to communicate the fact that we do offer more services. And again, we need to communicate the fact that with this cloud technology, it's a win-win. We both come out winners, both the advisor and the client, in harnessing some of this cloud. And there's something else we also have to keep in mind. Our profession is essentially reframing. We're at the point where we're seeing lines being blurred. You know, a few years ago, not that long ago, as I say, in the last 2 or 3 years is essentially when we started seeing a huge shift in our profession. Prior to that, things were compartmentalized. We had bookkeepers, we had advisors, we had tax preparers, and everybody had a role. And today, what we're seeing is more and more that those lines, as I suggested, are being blurred. And what we're seeing is that the role of bookkeeper, advisor, IT person, accounting pro, tax preparer, call it what we will, they're all kind of merging into one. And what we're essentially seeing as well is that a lot of the firms, big and small, are capitalizing on this whole reframing that we're seeing. A lot of firms now are offering a whole package of services that includes bookkeeping and tax and advisory and technology and all of that. So our profession is shifting. Things are rapidly blurring, and another reason for us to reframe our own practice. And so there's an interesting slide I want to show you. Many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I had a good friend of mine who it was in organizational behavior. and she was doing some workshops, and people, inviting people in for these workshops, and they were NLP. I don't know if you've ever heard of NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, it's called. And it's quite an interesting body of science. And what I'm showing you on the screen right now, so the slide that I'm projecting, is something called the logical levels of thought. And in an organization, in your practice, organizational behavior suggests that you're never going to change your behavior. You're never going to change the focus of your practice if you stay at the same thinking that is driving that behavior. So for example, you see we work from the bottom up. There's a level of thinking called environment, and that asks questions like where, when, with whom. So when are those tax returns due? When do we have to finish the bookkeeping? When do we have to prepare the HST return? And so those are the where and when type questions. Where are we going to do this? Are we going to do it at the client site, or are we going to do it at our office? So those are environment type thinking levels. And so the next level up is behavior. Well, what exactly do we need to do? We know when and where. What exactly do we need to do? So that's the next level up. And you can see we drive up from there. Then we can start asking strategy capability questions. How are we going to do this? And then we go up to BVA, which is called Beliefs, Values, and Attitudes. And we ask the question, why are we doing this? And this is where we start getting into the meat of this reframing that I'm talking about. Why do we have to change some of the stuff that we've been doing? We've been doing the same thing for 20 years. Why do we have to change? And those are the types of questions we need to ask ourselves. And if we go up even higher, we start asking questions like who? Well, who in the sense of what's the identity of our firm? Who are we? And then at the top level, who else essentially asks our clients? Who else are we dealing with? And how do we influence those people? And so when we reframe our practice using the logical levels of thought, we start asking the strategy and capability questions. The ones that start with how is where we start seeing the change. So this is what we've been doing. This is where we've been doing it. This is when we've been doing it. The how becomes more of the technology we're using, the strategies we're using, and then we go up to the why. And those are the types of questions we have to ask ourselves when we're talking about essentially growing our practice, selling more services, introducing more services, and communicating that to our clients. Okay, so let's have a look at some interesting information here. So a poll that I read not too long ago, was actually just a couple of months ago, suggested that 59% of small businesses predict they won't need an accountant in 10 years. Kind of a sobering statistic, that one. There's a lot of people who think that accountants are going to become dinosaurs, essentially. Do I believe that myself? I don't believe it, but it's not about me. It's about all these small business owners, 59% of them, who believe that they won't need an accountant in 10 years because software is going to take over, artificial intelligence is going to take over, and so on and so forth. And yet, having said that, here's another interesting stat. 56% of small business owners believe they will need accountants for non-accounting advice. So that's interesting. The idea is that what our clients want is more than accounting. The idea is that perhaps our clients don't really value accounting. They don't really see a value add there. They don't really think that accounting is really all that, well, definitely they probably don't think that's interesting or important, but there's no real value there. I remember, one of the first accounting firms that I worked with many years ago. I was sitting with the accountant, and we were delivering financial statements to a small business owner. And we're sitting there with the financial statements and the tax returns, and we're going over the stuff, and we're saying, well, you had a good year, you made a profit, it was up, X% over the prior year, costs were a bit higher, blah, blah. We were just going through all this stuff. And then here's a tax return, and we carried forward some, and we're explaining all this stuff. You have some tax to pay, but because the loss carried forward, it's not as much, and so on and so forth. And the entrepreneur, she was sitting at her desk, nodding her head, and okay, sign here, sign there, sign there. And then, okay, meeting's over. And as we're getting up to leave, she grabs that package of financial statements and tax returns, opens a drawer in her filing cabinets, and just kind of throws it in the filing cabinet. There's the value. They just said, well, this is a necessary evil. And so that really stayed with me. I'm talking about something that happened, probably 25 years ago. And it stayed with me that, wow, didn't really seem all that impressed with all that work we did. And yet here's this slide that says 56% of small business owners believe that they'll need accountants for more than that stuff. That stuff, sure, you do that stuff, you file the tax returns and tell me where to sign, but I need you for other types of services, okay? And then we get to the big one, and I'm sure every one of you has heard this one. If you ever sit with a new client, a potential client, you'll most likely hear the term, we're looking for a proactive accountant, a proactive bookkeeper, a proactive accounting professional. And it's a funny thing when I hear that, proactive. I need somebody who's proactive. I'm not sure anybody really knows what that means. I don't really know that the clients even know what that means, okay? And oftentimes, over the years, I've sat with potential clients and new clients, and one of the things they would tell me is that, well, my previous number cruncher, my previous pro advisor wasn't proactive enough. And even though everybody wants a proactive accountant or proactive accounting professional, most of them, I think if you really ask them, what does that mean? They don't really know what that means. They have a hazy expectation, and it's essentially based on an undefined requirement. And so how do we become the proactive accountant? What do we have to do to become the proactive accountant? Well, the first thing we have to do is accept this new reality of the lines being blurred, okay? So we have to accept that the way things have been done for the last 20 odd years, up until maybe 2 years ago, aren't going to work anymore. And so we have to start essentially getting on board to this idea of our profession is reframing. We need to reframe our practice. We need to offer more services. We need to communicate those services. And essentially, we need to cross-sell those services. Somebody comes to me for tax work, I should not just stop there. I have to have a strategy for suggesting how we could offer some additional services. And again, build on that client relationship, add the value, the perceived value that they are looking for over and above the tax work or whatever it is that we're doing, okay? And here's another interesting stat for you. This is a recent stat, November 2017, so maybe roughly a year ago. And it said 83% of accountants believe that technological skills are as important as accounting expertise. And this is another example of how our profession is reframing. So we have accounting professionals who are now seeing that it's more than about accountants. So even that, the lines there are being blurred. We already discussed how many of our clients don't really see value in straight accounting and tax work. They don't understand it. They don't really want to understand it. They know it needs to be done. As I said, it's a necessary evil. And now we're also seeing that a lot of accounting professionals kind of are getting on board with that perception. Now they're starting to see that, you know what, we need to be more than the number cruncher. We need to be the solution provider. We need to be the one who goes in and spots the trends and explains what's going on and interprets the numbers. So we're kind of like, we read the tea leaves and we sit there and we say, listen, we've been looking at this and here's what we're noticing. And that's the expertise that our clients are looking for, okay? And so we essentially come up with a few key points. Thanks to cloud technology, our profession is changing, it's reframing. The lines are blurred, we understand that. Our clients' perception has changed, our own practitioner perception has changed, just based on this slide that you see on your screen. 83% of accountants believe that technology is as important as accounting. And we therefore need to add services and communicate their existence in order to grow our firm and to stay competitive. Okay, so let's ask a poll question and let's see where we stand with the people who are here in attendance. So let's just take a few minutes and let's see how this plays out. And I see that the poll is in progress. So I believe Leah or Lynn are going to give me the results, and we're collecting responses. I see that. So we'll wait another maybe 30 seconds or so and just see if we get any more responses. I'm seeing that we're still collecting those responses. Well, okay, you know what? What I'm seeing here is that so far it says it's still collecting responses, but it looks as though 65% of people who have responded have said that yes, things have dramatically changed. There we go. 65% believe that things have dramatically changed. A lot of it, if not all of it, driven by cloud technology. Changed the way we work, changed the way we interact with our clients. 29% believe there's been some change and 6% haven't really seen the change. And so we're seeing a massive shift just based on those poll responses that tell us, yeah, our profession is changing. Yes, I accept that some haven't seen change yet. Some have seen some minimal change. And you know, change is the name of the game, though. Essentially, what we're looking at is there's starting to be more and more of a shift in what's going on in that relationship between the practitioner or the advisor and the client. And that kind of answers the why question. Okay, why do we need to cross-sell our services? Why do we need to even introduce more services? Well, these are all the reasons why. And it's been supported by roughly 69% of you. So now that we've addressed the why, maybe we should have a look at the how. All right, so how do we cross-sell our services? What should we be thinking about as we go through this reframing of our practice? So just a few bullet points for you. And then maybe we can answer some questions and just take it from there. So let's look at the first one. So first of all, let's accept that it's really not about sales. Remember that slide that I showed you that said, I don't have a sales mentality. Most accountants will say they do not have a sales mentality. I don't have a sales mentality personally. I've never considered myself a very capable sales representative, even though many of my friends tell me that I can convince them to buy anything or to go see a movie or whatever the case may be. I do that with friends maybe, but I find it difficult to do with perfect strangers. And so let's accept that it's not about sales. Okay. It's almost a cliche, but most accounting professionals will eagerly admit that they don't like sales. And so it may come as a relief for all of us to understand that this is not about selling. The point of cross-selling, the objective, in fact, is to strengthen relationships and to build new ones. And let's think about how you built your existing relationships with your clients. You've added value, whether you've realized it or not. You've added value. You've got clients, I'm willing to bet, who've been with you for a long time, and you have a trusted relationship. You have a value-based relationship with that client. And you likely did that by digging down, by learning about your client's business, right? You probably did that by asking all kinds of questions. You figured out the lay of the land. You've understood the client's pain points. And all we need to do is duplicate that, not by selling, just by thinking of the value proposition and just communicating that value proposition to your clients. So it's not about sales, it's about adding value, okay? And so let's go to the next one. So it's also, as we've seen, it's also about technology. Remember that stat. 83% of accountants believe that technology is as important as accounting. And so what we need to do, therefore, in order to build on our practice, to cross-sell those services, is we need to build on those services. We need to add the technology aspect. Because let's face it, the brutal truth is if we don't do it, somebody else will. And some of those somebody else's are the big firms. The big firms, or the bigger firms, are going to, not even going to, they started offering services that encompass all of those areas, including tax and technology and bookkeeping and just advisory services and financial statement and all of it, payroll even. And so all of that is being driven by technology. Let's face it, that's what's driving this. And so we need to be on top of that technology. We need to understand QuickBooks Online. We need to know it like the back of our hands. Maybe some of us are experts using the Income Tax Act. You know, we can go through the Income Tax Act like it's nobody's business. Well, we need to do the same thing with some of the technology tools. We need to understand QuickBooks Online. We need to understand the third-party apps, Receipt Bank, Pluto, WayPay, HubDoc, and so on and so forth. We need to add those solutions for our clients. And so technology is a crucial element here. So we have to think PD, PD, PD over and over again. Professional development, professional development, professional development. And let me just put in a quick plug here. QuickBooks Connect in Toronto is coming up in early December. And if you haven't been, and if you're kind of new to this whole idea of technology, it would be a great place to start. The opportunity's right there. Find out about QuickBooks Connect and learn when it's happening and how to get there. And I think you will be extremely happy that if you do go. It's I think the 4th year in a row that I attend, and it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to learn more about all of this stuff we're talking about, including technology. Another thing that I feel very strongly about is the way we communicate. And so many accountants and accounting professionals that I've dealt with over the years love using jargon. They love to say things like, yeah, we've capitalized those assets and we've claimed some amortization, but then we backed it out because we had to go with CCA. And so we didn't need to use up all the CCA at the full 30% rate because the taxable income was at such a level that we were able to use a reduced capital cost allowance. And we're telling this to a client, and the client is sitting there, and the client is going, what is that person saying? We need to speak to be understood. We need to forget jargon, forget acronyms, forget buzzwords, speak in language that our clients understand. And it's kind of sad that I still today meet some accounting professionals who love using jargon. It's almost as though they're proud of the fact they're not being understood. Maybe they think it makes them sound important. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But let's not do that. Let's not speak in this foreign language called accounting language that nobody else understands except for us. And so, you know, think about it. How do you build a trusted relationship? How do you cross-sell those services if the person you're speaking to doesn't even understand what it is you're saying? So let's remember that one. Let's speak to be understood, okay? All right, here's another one. We need to become the proactive accountant that all these clients want, even though they have no idea what it means. And How do we do that? How do we become the proactive accountant? Well, did you ever hear that expression? It's almost, this is another one that's almost a cliche. I got an alarm ringing here. It's almost a cliche. People who don't know what they don't know. We hear that a lot now. And when I first heard it maybe 10 years ago, I was fascinated by that whole concept. You don't know what you don't know. And if you think about it, many of our clients don't know that they don't know about something. Whether that something is the way payroll works, whether that something is the way HST works, maybe that something is more in depth. Maybe it's something having to do with technology and how to streamline and become more effective by using some of the technological tools that are going to cut back on the time they spend doing their bookkeeping, for example. The idea is we need to figure that out. We need to figure out what it is they don't know. And then we can explain it to them and we can solve their pain point. We can introduce a service that will now make them know that they didn't know that, and now they can see what the solution is. Okay, and so again, what we become is that proactive accountant that everyone's looking for. They don't want somebody who a client years ago once told me. The quote was something along the lines that, you know, Mike, you're not a rear view mirror accountant. You're not just looking at the past. You're not just looking at last year's financial statements, last year's results, last year's tax return. That's history. That's ancient history to me. I need somebody to help me in the here and now and help me go forward. That, in a nutshell, is a great example of what the proactive accountant or the proactive advisor will do. Okay, we're not just looking in the rearview mirror. And I think that the problem that a lot of small business owners are dealing with is that they need somebody to help them manage and plan, okay, and act on those plans. So let's become the proactive accountant. And then the other piece that we have to understand is there's a difference between upselling and cross-selling. Upselling essentially means you're just going to sell anything to drive up the revenue. So somebody, think about a store, you know, somebody goes in and buys a TV and we're going to offer them a computer, or we're going to offer them a toaster. We're going to offer them anything just to increase the value of that sale. Well, that's upselling. There's no value there really. That's pressure. And so what we want to do is we want to cross-sell, and we have to keep in mind that keyword value. Okay, how do we add value to that relationship? Again, we do our homework. We understand what it is they don't know. We understand the trends. We ask questions. We dig down, and we discover more about those clients. And some of you might be thinking, yeah, but that's a lot of work. No, it's not. It actually isn't, because we're using technology to do the heavy lifting. All we do is interpret. We don't need just a basic example is we don't need to do data entry anymore. We don't need to be recording little receipts into QuickBooks. We don't do that anymore. We use the tools, we use the technology to record all of those costs. We use the technology to make the online payments, electric fund transfers. It's more hands-off, it's more automated. And therefore, we have the time now to start asking the really valued questions, the questions that our clients are looking for the answer to. Okay, so we cross-sell by saying, hey, listen, I've noticed that you're doing this, that, and the other thing. Example, you're a roofer, and you go up on the roof and you change the shingles and you do what you need to do on that roof, and then you come down and you've got a paper and a pad and you're writing an invoice on a piece of paper, and you give the customer that piece of paper with the hand scribbled invoice on it. Or maybe I've seen other people, they go into their truck and they've got a little laptop computer and a little portable printer, and they type in there and they print out the receipt or the invoice, and then they go back to the door. Okay, forget all that. Let's use QuickBooks Online to send the invoice. Just email it right from your iPhone or your Android device. These are the kinds of things that the client, their eyes light up. And so that's cross-selling. That's adding value. That's explaining what they can do, what's possible, what the potential is, and we're addressing the I don't know that I didn't know that. Okay, and so that's our job. That's our job, and therefore we're cross-selling. And then let's get to the actual selling part, the stuff that all of us, what's the proper word? All of us, probably all of us don't like doing. Selling. Yeah, at the end of the day, we have to do some selling. We have to do some marketing. And how do we do that? Well, again, remember, what I'm suggesting to you is essentially my opinion based on my own experience. And so for me, the easiest way to market my services, to promote my practice, to sell myself or my firm is to either be live or be virtual. Okay? Be live, what does that mean? It means a few things. It means network. For many, many years, I was part of a networking club, one of these breakfast clubs. I'm sure you know them. There's a whole bunch of them all over the country. Look into that. If you're not a member of a networking club, look one up. You can visit some of these. You don't have to join right away. You can go and visit some of these clubs and have a look at this. I was a member for 10, 12 years easily, and it's a great way to market yourself, and it's low pressure. It's no arm twisting here. You build relationships. Again, it's all about the relationships. Okay, so networking, I think, is one of the best ways of getting out there and promoting yourself. It's also one of the easiest ways, I believe. And the idea is that you're essentially building those relationships, because that's what this is all about. You're building that relationship now with other business owners who are going to recommend you to someone else, or who may become a client. And let's face it, even in this social media online world that we live in, word of mouth still is worth a lot. And so networking clubs are a wonderful way to get the message out. Another thing you might want to consider doing, this also we can categorize as be live, is think about presenting. In whatever city you're in. I'm in Ottawa myself, and we have an incubator here. So there's a small business incubator. Somebody wants to start a business, an entrepreneur wants to get going. Where do you start? No idea. I don't know where to start. And so we have incubators that help those entrepreneurs, that walk them through the steps. And those incubators need volunteers. They need the accounting professionals. They need the IT people. They need the legal experts, and so on and so forth, to come in and speak to these entrepreneurs. And again, this is something that I've been doing for quite a few years, is just presenting at these various incubators. And you could just go in and talk about the importance of books and records, how to use technology, how does HST work? Anyway, I haven't a clue. Maybe you, the accounting professional, can explain that to me. Or what about payroll? How do I pay myself? How do I hire an employee? These are all the kinds of topics that entrepreneurs are looking for, and existing business owners are looking for. And an incubator is a solid source for you to go in. No pressure. Again, you're talking about the services that you offer. So you're essentially cross-selling those services, and you're just becoming a subject matter expert. And it's a wonderful way for you to go out and cross-sell your services. Something else I believe quite strongly in is that second line: be virtual. Get online. Get online. Get onto LinkedIn. My two favorites are LinkedIn and Twitter. Some might prefer Facebook, some might prefer Instagram, some might like them all. Do something online. Have an online presence. Blog, a simple 100-word blog about what's new in QuickBooks. What's the latest development with payroll? Maybe something changed. There's been some change in a certain industry, construction, let's say. write a small paragraph. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be a novel. It could be 100 words with a link to some resource. Put that on your website. Have a website. Put that blog post on your website, and then disseminate it using social media. Put it on LinkedIn with a link back to your website. Do the same thing with Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is that you like to use. Join some groups in LinkedIn or Facebook. Contribute. If you've ever used Quora, have a look at Quora. There's a lot of subject matter experts on Quora. So you could have a presence, a virtual presence online. Again, that is an easy way for you to market your services, to cross-sell, not upsell, and to essentially get the word out about what you're about. And then point 5, and to me, this one is probably the most important one. We've used the word over and over again since the very beginning of our webinar. Essentially, that word is value. And the important thing is that our clients have perceived value in the work that we do. We want them to perceive that value. We want them to agree that the service we offer is valuable. We want them to value the service we do. And essentially, we want to enrich that relationship by adding more value. And so the best way that I have found personally, the best way I have found to cross-sell my services, to increase the value, to communicate what it is I could do for a client, and so on and so forth, is by packaging it. And the word value comes into play here as well. And I'm sure we've all heard of this. I'm a huge proponent of it. Value pricing. Have a look, if you haven't looked into value pricing yet, have a look at value pricing, because it's the ideal. This one slide encompasses all the other slides that essentially we've shown you over the last 45 minutes or so. It all really comes down to this one slide, because this is how we can communicate what the service is. We can emphasize how the value works out and how the win-win scenario comes into play. We will never forget to talk about a service if we package it. So if we have a value pricing model on our value pricing template, whether it's on our website or you print it out on a piece of paper, your services are going to be right there on a piece of paper or on someone's laptop screen. These are the services we provide. Here's what it would cost you. And you could sit down with the client or the potential client and say, sure, we could do your bookkeeping. We can also do this, and we can also do that, and we can also help you with your technology, and we can also help you with payroll or HST filing or tax planning or whatever it is. And it's all there in black and white. You know, when you go online, if you're buying, so I'm an Apple fanboy. I love Apple products. So if I go to Apple's website and I'm looking for a new MacBook, they're all packaged right there. The website gives me my choices. I could choose the one I want. Essentially, I could choose what it is I want to spend. That's what value pricing is leaning towards as well. We offer a basket of services, a range of services to our clients. And we explain, first of all, it gives us the opportunity to explain how these services work with each other. So there's the cross-selling idea. You could use our bookkeeping services. We can introduce services like Receipt Banker, HubDoc, and so on and so forth. That will save you time, blah, 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 blah. And then we could help you prepare a report, and we could offer you this service, and we could help you with tax planning. We could do the financial statements at the end of the year. We could do the HST filing and so on. So essentially, it's all there in black and white, just like Apple's website has all their machines right in front of me, and I can look at each one and compare one with the other and find out what the value proposition is. And then just like that Apple website that says, well, I don't really want to spend $5,000 on a new computer. Maybe 2,500 or 3,000 is what I want to spend on a new computer. Well, the client does the same thing. Client's like, well, I don't know if I want to spend $1,000 a month. I'm not sure. I'd like to, I don't have the budget for it right now, but maybe 500 a month. And you let the client choose what they want to spend. It's a wonderful, wonderful model. And I strongly believe that we should all be using value pricing in order to cross-sell our services, because they go hand in hand. One feeds into the other, one reinforces the other. The value proposition is up front and center. We're always talking about value. And so extremely important to package our services, thereby not forgetting to offer a service to a potential client or to an existing client. And we have the value proposition right there. And there you go. I believe that is my final slide. We do have some time. It's 1:45, so we have some time for questions. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. We'll certainly hang around if you want to discuss any of this. More than happy to stick around and talk about what we've discussed over the last 45 minutes or so. And I do sincerely want to thank you all for being here. Hope you did find our little chat informative. There's a lot of information online about value pricing, for example, about technology, about QuickBooks Connect that I've discussed, and there's a whole pile of information available for you online. Okay. I see a question here. I've got the question pane app open, and so I just see that Natalie's saying, can you give us specific examples of providing proactive services to clients? So Natalie, absolutely. I think that the key is ask questions. And so I'm an inquisitive type of person. So one of the things that I always do is if I'm sitting with someone and whatever that is we're talking about, last year or last quarter, the performance, the financial performance, cash flow, I ask questions. So why is cash flow, why are we having problems with cash flow? What's the issue here? And, let the client explain what's going on, introduce some concept that they may not know about. Maybe a dumb example, but, maybe we're buying too much inventory. So if somebody's complaining about cash flow, we've got the financials in front of us, or we've got the QuickBooks file open, and we're talking to them, and we have a look at their inventory levels. It's like, well, a lot of inventory here. Do you need this type of inventory? And then you can provide a solution. You can provide a solution to them saying, well, I happen to know a banker. I'm a big fan of BDC, for example, Business Development Bank. I love the BDC. And there's something else that I should have put in a slide. Build a relationship with a BDC banker. Because they're great banks for small business owners. I love BDC. And so you're offering a service now that solves a problem. You're not just saying, well, here's the books. I did last year's or last quarter's books. You owe $2,000 for HST, and see you next month. Where's the value there? Okay, so we're being proactive in that we're finding solutions, we're asking questions, and again, we're building a relationship, and we're adding perceived value. And we both win. Client wins, we win. Okay, so hopefully I answered that question. And that could be, actually, Natalie, there's, if you think about it, it all depends on the business that someone's in. Are they in construction? Do they have inventory? Are they mobile? Maybe they need some kind of a mobile solution they don't even know exists. Because, maybe they're plumbers, or maybe they're roofers, or who knows what kind of business they're in. They don't know about all these tools. That's what we're here for. Remember that 83%? The 83% of accountants who believe that technology is as important as accounting knowledge. Okay, I think I've answered that question, and it took way too much time to answer. But I hope you get my point, Natalie. Let's see if there's any other questions? You're very welcome, Natalie. I'm not seeing anything else. So before I forget, let me just reinforce the next webinar on November 15th. Tamatha Baines will introduce succession planning for cloud tax planning advisory services. So that's on November 15th, and I'm sure it will be a very informative session. So hope to see you back on that one. And I'm just going through the question pane here. I'm not seeing anything else. And so maybe we'll stick around for another minute or two and see if anyone else has a question to ask. Again, thanks very much for taking the time to sit in on this webinar, and hopefully see you at QuickBooks Connect.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for providing all of your insightful feedback about this topic. And yeah, so I don't think we have any more questions, but if you do, feel free to reach out to the Intuit events team, and we can pass your questions along to Michael as well. And thank you again, Michael, and we'll see you at QuickBooks Connect in Toronto. Looking forward to it. Thanks again. Have a great day. You too. Bye now. Bye.